became aware of this organization, whose director joins us today, several months ago when they lodged a very direct campaign against us because of our use of the word Latino. I had the pleasure of sitting down with them this morning, and I think that many of us agree with the mission that they have of telling the complete story of the Mexican, Native, and indigenous people.
We are the voice not heard. The American Latino Museum is a museum of genocide for us. Genocide was defined by Raphael Lemkin as the planned and coordinated annihilation of a racial group by a variety of actions aimed at weakening the viability of the group and by undermining the foundations essential to the survival of the group as a group. This definition of genocide fits what is being planned and coordinated by the American Latino Museum. This museum's plans are genocidal by every measure and weight of the definition of genocide. The intent of this museum, the plans, what is being coordinated, is cultural castration of our people as indigenous people, of our people's identity. Our people are the Nican Tlaca, the indigenous people of this continent. We are not Latinos. We are not Hispanics. Those are labels of the colonialist criollos of Miami that have been forced on our people with their colonial control of Spanish language media, educational materials, and the government institutions that make those labels through the census and the government applications. The goal of this museum is to weaken, to destroy the viability of our Nican Tlaca identity. The Hispanic Latino agenda is meant to exterminate any attempts by our people to separate our indigenous identity from that of the Spaniards and their criollo descendants on this continent. The openly genocidal agenda has been planned and coordinated by the Cuban criollos and other European descent people out of Miami. It is part of the ongoing genocidal actions taking place all across this continent. It is part of the terrorism and evils that Europeans brought on our people and our continent since 1492. The genocidal aspects of this genocidal museum can be seen in their final report to the President and Congress of the United States. In it, you can read how they are denying us our history. They deny us our Nican Tlaca identity and our rights to the truth of the colonial crimes of the last 500 years. They are denying us the knowledge of our Holocaust, the extermination of 95% of our population. That Holocaust was caused by Europeans, European Spaniards, with the use of smallpox as a weapon of extermination. This museum wipes out that knowledge, the full knowledge of the European crimes of colonialism, their terrorism, their criminal and immoral actions, and their genocidal attacks on our race, our civilizations, and our culture. Problems with the American Latino Museum. The plans as they are now. The current plans for the American Latino Museum tell the story of the Spaniards and the criollo descendants on this continent. In that part of what is called the United States of America, a more appropriate name for this museum should be the Spaniard and Criollo Museum of America. The purpose of this museum is to glorify that Spaniard Criollo history on our continent. That is the story they are really telling with this museum. It is not just a white European history of European invasions, it is a whitewashed history. The American Latino Museum will tell of the glories of the Spaniards and their invasions and settlements and missions and explorations and their encounters with us, the Nican Tlaca, the indigenous people of this continent. The museum will be a glorification of the Spaniards and their Criollo descendants. There will be zero mention of the civilizations and cultures that were here and destroyed. There will be no mention of the smallpox holocaust that killed 95% of our population. There will also be no mention of the theft of our lands, the rapes, or the enslavement of our people. There will be no mention of the theft of gold and silver from the Mexica and Inca cities and how that wealth was used as a foundation for modern European capitalism and how that capitalism financed the exploration and destruction of our civilizations and the extermination of 70 to 100 million of our people. The direction of the museum. This is a quote from the American Latino Museum. Both the centuries-old Latino communities in America and the newest of Latino immigrants share the same desire to be part of the American fabric, to build upon the American dream, and to contribute to our mutual success in the way the Germans, Italians, and Irish did. That quote from the Friends of the American Latino Museum makes no mention of Nican Tlaca, indigenous people who have been here for over 50,000 years. That is no accident. It is part of the genocidal historic actions of Spaniards and Criollo descendants for the last 500 years throughout our continent to the present day. This museum is being aimed at the American Latino population, which is 80 to 90% of indigenous people, full-blood and mixed blood. This is clearly not a Latino population. We are misrepresented, mislabeled as Latinos. We are being told that we are the invaders of our own lands, that we are the criminals that committed genocide on our own people. Our people have been intentionally kept ignorant of the true history and identity of our people for the last 500 years. The current Cuban Criollo television, Spanish language media promote this genocidal agenda. We have been mislabeled as Hispanic Latino in a fraud that intends to destroy our sense of our true pre-1492 history and our true Nican Tlaca identity. This museum is intended as a last nail in the coffin of our existence.